The 9,381st meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is maintenance of international peace and security, artificial intelligence, opportunities and risks for international peace and security. The agenda is adopted. I warmly welcome the Secretary-General and the distinguished high-level representatives. Your presence today underscores the importance of the subject matter under discussion. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the following briefers to participate in the meeting. Mr. Jack Clark, co-founder of Anthropic, and Professor Yi Zeng, Institute of Automation, Chinese Academy of Science. It is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I wish to draw attention of the Council members to the document S 2023/528, a letter dated 14th of July 2023 from the Permanent Representative of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland to the United Nations, addressed to the Secretary-General, transmitting a concept paper on the item under consideration. I give the floor to the Secretary-General, His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres.
Mr. President, Excellencies, I thank the United Kingdom for convening the first debate on artificial intelligence ever held in this Council. I've been following the development of AI for some time, and indeed, I told the General Assembly 6 years ago that AI would have a dramatic impact on sustainable development, the world of work, and the social fabric. But like everyone here, I've been shocked and impressed by the newest form of AI, generative AI, which is a radical advance in its capabilities. The speed and reach of this new technology in all its forms are utterly unprecedented. It has been compared to the introduction of the printing press, but while it took more than 50 years for printed books to become widely available across Europe, ChatGPT reached 100 million users in just 2 months. The finance industry estimates AI could contribute between 10 and 15 trillion US dollars to the global economy by 2030. Almost every government, large company, and organization in the world is working on an AI strategy. But even its own designers have no idea where their stunning technological breakthrough may lead. It is clear that AI will have an impact on every area of our lives, including the 3 pillars of the United Nations. It has the potential to turbocharge global development, from monitoring the climate crisis to breakthroughs in medical research. It offers new potential to realize human rights, particularly to health and education. But the High Commissioner for Human Rights has expressed alarm over evidence that AI can amplify bias, reinforce discrimination, and enable new levels of authoritarian surveillance. Today's debate is an opportunity to consider the impact of artificial intelligence on peace and security, where it is already raising political, legal, ethical, and humanitarian concerns. I urge the Council to approach this technology with a sense of urgency, a global lens, and a learner's mindset. Because what we have seen is just the beginning. Never again will technological innovation move as slow as it is moving today. Mr. President, AI is being put to work in connection with peace and security, including by the United Nations. It is increasingly being used to identify patterns of violence, monitor ceasefires, and more, helping to strengthen our peacekeeping, mediation, and humanitarian efforts. But AI tools can also be used by those with malicious intent. AI models can help people to harm themselves and each other at massive scale. Let's be clear. The malicious use of AI systems for terrorist, criminal, or state purposes could cause horrific levels of death and destruction, widespread trauma, and deep psychological damage on an unimaginable scale. AI-enabled cyber attacks are already targeting critical infrastructure and our own peacekeeping and humanitarian operations, causing great human suffering. The technical and financial barriers to access are low, including for criminals and terrorists. Both military and non-military applications of AI could have very serious consequences for global peace and security. The advent of generative AI could be a defining moment for disinformation and hate speech, undermining truth, facts, and safety, adding a new dimension to the manipulation of human behavior, and contributing to polarization and instability on a vast scale. Deepfakes are just one new AI-enabled tool that, if unchecked, could have serious implications for peace and stability. And the unforeseen consequences of some AI-enabled systems could create security risks by accident. Look no further than social media. Tools and platforms that were designed to enhance human connection are now used to undermine elections, spread conspiracy theories, and incite hatred and violence. Malfunctioning AI systems are another huge area of concern. And the interaction between AI and nuclear weapons, biotechnology, neurotechnology, and robotics is deeply alarming. Generative AI has enormous potential for good and evil at scale. Its creators themselves have warned that much bigger, potentially catastrophic and existential risks lie ahead. Without action to address these risks, we are derelict in our responsibilities to present and future generations.
Mr. President, the international community has a long history of responding to new technologies with the potential to disrupt our societies and economies. We have come together at the United Nations to set new international rules, sign new treaties, and establish new global agencies. While many countries have called for different measures and initiatives around the governance of AI, this requires a universal approach. And questions of governance will be complex for several reasons. First, certain powerful AI models are already widely available to the general public. Second, and unlike nuclear material and chemical and biological agents, AI tools can be moved around the world, leaving very little trace. And third, the private sector's leading role in AI has few parallels in other strategic technologies. But we already have entry points. For example, one is the 2018 to 2019 Guiding Principles on Lethal Autonomous Weapons Systems, agreed through the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. I agree with the large number of experts that have recommended the prohibition of lethal autonomous weapons without human control. We also have the recommendations on the ethics of artificial intelligence agreed through UNESCO in 2021. The Office of Counterterrorism, working together with the Interregional Crime and Research Center Institute of the United Nations, has provided recommendations on how member states can tackle the potential use of AI for terrorist purposes. And the AI for Good summits hosted by the International Telecommunications Union have brought together experts, the private sector, United Nations agencies, and governments around efforts to ensure that AI serves the common good.
Mr. President, the best approach would address existing challenges while also creating the capacity to monitor and respond to future risks. It should be flexible and adaptable and consider technical, social, and legal questions. It should integrate the private sector, civil society, independent scientists, and all those driving AI innovation. The need for global standards and approaches makes the United Nations the ideal place for this to happen. The Charter's emphasis on protecting succeeding generations gives us a clear mandate to bring all stakeholders together around the collective mitigation of long-term global risks. AI poses just such a risk. I therefore welcome calls from some member states for the creation of a new United Nations entity to support collective efforts to govern this extraordinary technology, inspired by such models as the International Atomic Energy Agency, the International Civil Aviation Organization, or the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The overarching goal of this body would be to support countries to maximize the benefits of AI for good, to mitigate existing and potential risks, and to establish and administer internationally agreed mechanisms of monitoring and governance. Let's be honest, there is a huge skills gap around AI in governments and other administrative and security structures that must be addressed at the national and global levels. A new UN entity would gather expertise and put it at the disposal of the international community, and it could support collaboration on the research and development of AI tools to accelerate sustainable development. Mr. President, as a first step, I'm convening a multi-stakeholder high-level advisory board for artificial intelligence that will report back on the options for global AI governance by the end of this year. My upcoming policy brief on a new agenda for peace will also make recommendations on AI governance to member states. First, it will recommend that member states develop national strategies on the responsible design, development, and use of AI, consistent with their obligations under international humanitarian law and human rights law. Second, it will call on member states to engage in a multilateral process to develop norms, rules, and principles around military applications of AI, while ensuring the engagement of other relevant stakeholders. And third, it will call on member states to agree on a global framework to regulate and strengthen oversight mechanisms for the use of data-driven technology, including artificial intelligence, for counter-terrorism purposes. The policy brief on a new agenda for peace will also call for negotiations to be concluded by 2026 on a legally binding instrument to prohibit lethal autonomous weapon systems that function without human control or oversight, and which cannot be used in compliance with international humanitarian law. I hope member states will debate these options and decide on the best course of action to establish the AI governance mechanisms that are so urgently needed. In addition to the recommendations of the new agenda for peace, I urge agreement on the general principle that human agency and control are essential for nuclear weapons and should never be withdrawn. The Summit of the Future next year will be an ideal opportunity for decisions on many of these interrelated issues. Mr. President, I urge this Council to exercise leadership on artificial intelligence and show the way towards common measures for the transparency, accountability, and oversight of AI systems. We must work together for AI that bridges social, digital, and economic divides, not one that pushes us further apart. I urge you to join forces and build trust for peace and security. We need a race to develop AI for good, to develop AI that is reliable and safe, and that can end poverty, banish hunger, cure cancer, and supercharge climate action. AI that propels us towards the Sustainable Development Goals, and that is the race we need. And that is a race that is possible and achievable, and I thank you.
I thank the Secretary-General for his briefing. I now give the floor to Mr. Jack Clark.
Thank you very much. I come here today to offer a brief overview of why AI has become a subject of concern for the world's nations, what the next few years hold for the development of the technology, and some ideas for how policymakers may choose to respond to this historic opportunity. The main takeaway from my remarks should be we cannot leave the development of artificial intelligence solely to private sector actors. The governments of the world must come together, develop state capacity, and make the development of powerful AI systems a shared endeavor across all parts of society, rather than one dictated solely by a small number of firms competing with one another in the marketplace. So why am I making this statement? It helps to have a sense of recent history. 1 decade ago, a company in England called DeepMind published research that showed how to teach an AI system to play old computer games like Space Invaders and Pong. Fast forward to 2023, and the same techniques that were used in that research are now being used to create AI systems that can beat military pilots in air fighting simulations, stabilize the plasma in fusion reactors, and even design the components of next generation semiconductors. Similar trends have played out in computer vision, where a decade ago, scientists were able to create basic image classifiers and generate very crude pixelated images. And today, image classification is used across the world to inspect goods on production lines, analyze satellite imagery, and improve state security. And the AI models which are drawing attention today, like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Bard, and my own company Anthropic's Claude, are themselves also developed by corporate interests. So a lot has happened in 10 years, and we can expect new and even more powerful systems in the coming years. We can expect these trends to continue. Across the world, private sector actors are the ones that have the sophisticated computers and large pools of data and capital resources to build these systems, and therefore private sector actors seem likely to continue to define the development of these systems. While this will bring huge benefits to humans across the world, it also poses potential threats to peace, security, and global stability. These threats stem from two essential qualities of AI systems. First, their potential for misuse, and second, their unpredictability, as well as the inherent fragility of them being developed by such a narrow set of actors. On misuse, these AI systems have an increasingly broad set of capabilities, and some beneficial capabilities sit alongside ones that can pose profound misuses. For example, an AI system that can help us in understanding the science of biology may also be an AI system that can be used to construct biological weapons. On unpredictability, a fundamental sense of AI is that we do not understand these systems. It is as though we are building engines without understanding the science of combustion. This means that once AI systems are developed and deployed, people identify new uses for them unanticipated by their developers. Many of these will be positive, but some could be misuses like those mentioned above. Even more challenging is the problem of chaotic or unpredictable behavior. An AI system may, once deployed, exhibit subtle problems which were not identified during its development. Therefore, we should think very carefully about how to ensure the developers of these systems are accountable so that they build and deploy safe and reliable systems which do not compromise global security. To dramatize this issue, I think it's helpful to use an analogy. I would challenge those listening to this speech to not think of AI as a specific technology, but instead as a type of human labor that can be bought and sold at the speed of a computer, and which is getting cheaper and more capable over time. And as I have described, this is a form of labor that is being developed by one narrow class of actors, companies. We should be clear-eyed about the immense political leverage this affords. If you can create a substitute or augmentation for human labor and sell it into the world, you are going to become more influential over time. Many of the challenges of AI policy seem simpler to think about if we think of them like this. How should the nations of the world react to the fact that anyone who has enough money and data can now easily create an artificial expert for a given domain? Who should have access to this power? How should governments regulate this power? Who should be the actors able to create and sell these so-called experts? And what kinds of experts can we allow to be created? These are huge questions. Based on my experiences, I think the useful things we can do are to work on developing ways to test for capabilities, misuses, and potential safety flaws of these systems. If we're creating and distributing new types of workers which will go into the global economy, then it stands to reason we would like to be able to characterize them, evaluate their capabilities, and understand their failings. After all, humans go through rigorous evaluation and on-the-job testing for many critical roles, ranging from the emergency services to the military. Why not the same for AI? For this reason, it has been encouraging to see many countries emphasize the importance of safety testing and evaluation in their various AI policy proposals, ranging from the European Union's AI framework to China's recently announced generative AI rules, to the United States National Institute of Standards and Technology's risk management framework for AI systems, to the United Kingdom's upcoming summit on AI and AI safety. All of these different AI policy proposals and events rely in some form on testing and evaluating AI systems, so the governments of the world should invest in this area. Right now, there are not standards or even best practices for how to test these frontier systems for things like discrimination, misuse, or safety. And because there aren't best practices, it's hard for governments to create policies that can create more accountability for the actors developing these systems. And correspondingly, the private sector actors enjoy an information advantage when dealing with governments. In closing, any sensible approach to regulation will start with having the ability to evaluate an AI system for a given capability or flaw. And any failed approach will start with grand policy ideas that are not supported by effective measurements and evaluations. It is through the development of robust and reliable evaluation systems that governments can keep companies accountable and companies can earn the trust of the world that they want to deploy their AI systems into. If we do not invest in this, then we run the risk of regulatory capture, compromising global security, and handing over the future to a narrow set of private sector actors. If we can rise to this challenge, however, I believe we can reap the benefits of AI as a global community and ensure there is a balance of power between the developers of AI and the citizens of the world. Thank you very much.
I thank Mr. Clark for his briefing. I now give the floor to Professor Zeng.
Thank you. My name is Zeng, and I would like to take this opportunity to share with distinguished representatives my personal view on AI for good, on international peace and security. And I hope it may be useful to promote the discussion and understanding of the necessity of AI global governance. There's no doubt that AI is a powerful enabling technology to push forward global sustainable development. When investigating on the use of AI for SDGs, we find that most of the efforts are on AI for quality education and AI for healthcare, while many of other important topics, such as AI for biodiversity, climate actions, and AI for peace, have been put very few efforts on. Well, I think these are the essential topics for the future of humanities, and governments should definitely work together on these important topics. Military AI and AI for peace and security are very related topics, but fundamentally different in important aspects. As an essential pillar for sustainable development goals, we should push forward AI for international peace, reduce, not enhance security and safety risks. When thinking about AI for good from the perspective of peace and security, it will be much better to make efforts on using AI to identify disinformation, misunderstanding among different countries and political bodies, and use AI for network defense, not to attack, instead of seeking ways to create disinformation for military and political purpose. AI should be used to connect people and cultures, not to disconnect them. And this is why we create an AI-enabled cultural interactions engine to find commonalities and diversities among different UNESCO World Heritages. From these World Heritages, we find we are not that disconnected from cultural side. And these commonalities serve as roots and friendly hands that help us to appreciate and understand or even learn from these diversities in various cultures. The current AIs, including recent generative AIs, are all information processing tools that seems to be intelligent, well, they are without real understandings and hence are not truly intelligent. This is why they, of course, cannot be trusted as responsible agents that can help humans to make decisions. For example, although the world still has to reach a concrete enough consensus on lethal autonomous weapon systems, at least AI should not be used to directly make death decisions for humans. Effective and